Feed him to the Sharkticons.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. For today's video, we're going to be checking out the Transformers Legacy United G1 Universe Leader Class Overcharge, which fictionally is a mass-produced army clone created by the Quintessons, known as a Terrabot. And as we whack up an image of the original G1 toy box art, this guy looks to be a pretty decent looking update. So as we check out the details, in a wave of only repaints and reissues, I was surprised to see this guy packing a brand new head sculpt, despite how similar it still is designed to Blitzwing's, which when it comes down to the rest of the robot mode, this guy is just a simple repaint of. Although, as we've been seeing from some of the more recent smaller scale triple changes, this guy is solid. He's near enough been filled in completely front side to back, which even this, seeing as the original 2 was a repaint of Blitzwing, is incredibly faithful. Although it's gotta be said, guys, as good as this update is, it does kinda suck that to round off Legacy, what easily has to be one of the best mainline trilogies of all time, Hasbro are pumping out mere repaints of figures which are now roughly 3 to 4 years old. And as we fly through his accessories, seeing as this guy is an army drone, let's check out what weaponry he is packing. So up first is one Energon battle sword, which when it comes down to detail is looking sweet, although unfortunately this has been cast out of a very pliable plastic, so I really wouldn't be surprised if this does very easily warp over time. To pair alongside the sword, Overcharge is also packing 2 Cybertronian blasters, which are surprisingly cast out of a super solid plastic. Then easily saving the best for last, we do see the return of the iconic Energon mitts, which to be entirely honest, I only think were included originally with Blitzwing to inflate him from what would otherwise be a very expensive Voyager to an insanely cheap leader class, because let's all face it, guys, these are super pointless. Now, charging into this guy's posability, this will be the one area where he does absolutely reign supreme in comparison to the original. So up first, in addition to the head being ball jointed, the neck can also look upwards, which is brilliant, especially for a character who does have the ability of flight, although unfortunately the same praise cannot be had as we check out these shoulders, because the main shoulder joint itself is actually fixed into place. The only way to get any movement out of these would be to take this hinge joint, which does allow them to kick forwards and they're out to the side, but there is no backwards range at all, which I think sucks. The bicep can spin, the elbow can bend, and the wrist can rotate, although unfortunately, unlike the 86 movie Springer, the hands cannot open and close, but the waist can be spun both side to side, the skirt is segmented so the hips are able to kick forwards and they're out to the side, but the backwards range is pretty much non-existent, which for a $55 leader, I honestly think sucks. The thigh can spin and the knee can bend way past 90, and check out that additional inbuilt gap filler. Not gonna lie, despite my issues with this guy, that is actually really cool. And then finally, to round things off, the ankle pivot is straight up nuts. But at this point, I'm sure you guys all know the drill. Let's now put him through the post test. Now, flying through some comparisons, we are starting things off big by whacking out the original Transformers Legacy Blitzwing. Now, the main reason for the title of this video, guys, is because Overcharge is exactly what he says on the tin. He is an Overcharge. Take Blitzwing, for example, a pretty popular Decepticon that was originally released in 2022. Although, fast forward to today, you can still find this guy clogging up shelves for the discounted price of a deluxe class, and seeing as Overcharge is super niche, I think an even cheaper fate awaits. So if you can wait for a sale, then I would absolutely recommend to do so, especially as seeing as this is one of the very first leader class priced army builders. These things are going to be clogging up shelves like there is no damn tomorrow. And instead, if you are still after experiencing a good legacy triple changer, then I would most definitely recommend Sandstorm over Overcharge any day, because all 3 modes I think are pretty solid, whereas when it comes down to this guy, his third and final form, that being the jet mode, is pretty much a plastic Then finally, as this may just be my final legacy review, we have to end the comparisons off with a bang by bringing out the myth, the legend that is the Earthrise Optimus Prime. Now, sliding into this guy's transformation, this may just be the main reason as to why he does warrant that leader class price point, because the engineering is stacked. So for the first step, take a hold of the head and spin this all the way around until it now faces the back. I thought it was quite cool that even this resembles a full-blown faceplate. You'll then take a hold of the shoulder, kick this here forwards, and then take the main shoulder joint itself and first of all kick this here out to the side. Now, one of the most important steps to remember would be to straighten out that elbow joint. Once completed, we can then take this section, slide this here down, then take the fist and slide this here inside. Now what you'll do is proceed to straighten out the bicep, then what you'll do is take that shoulder joint and kick this here forwards, as we are now going to spin around here to the side, where we are going to take this panel and proceed to spin this here all of the way around until eventually it does look like this. Now the aim of the game is to then take this panel and slide this over the top of the bicep. We are then going to take the entire shoulder joint, shift this here backwards, and hopefully this should then click into that tiny little cutout. For one final finishing touch, you'll then take this panel, snap this here back down, and again guys, do all of the same steps for that second side. Bang! Until you have now created something which does look to be super stumpy and almost ripped directly out of that original G1 toy line. Then for the next step, spin around here to the back, take these panels and proceed to extend these here outwards. You'll then take the shin and disconnect it away from the knee, as we are now going to begin to compress the knee backwards until this also snaps into place. Then what you'll do is take these panels and connect these back into their original configurations, at least when going from robot into tank mode. Then for the next step, you'll take this side fin and proceed to fold this here backwards. You'll then take the front and the back part of the foot and snap these here inwards until eventually they do meet directly down the middle. And again guys, do exactly the same for that second side. Once completed, we can then proceed to combine these here directly down the middle. Then what you'll do is spin around here to the front of Overcharge, where we are now going to take the chest plate and detach it and pull this here up and over the top of the head sculpt. Now once that's completed, that will then more than likely completely free up the entire backpack. Proceed to extend this here backwards. Once completed, we can then spin around here to the back, where that tab is going to slide into that slot. And again, make sure the same applies for the second side. Then what you'll do is spin back around here to the front, where we are now going to take a hold of the chest plate, pop this here forwards, and then take the head and fold this here all the way in until eventually this does reveal a fake cockpit for the tank mode. The chest plate will then come back and will snap into place, and then what you'll do is take this section here and snap this into place, so that right now the tank should be looking something along the lines of this. Then for the next step, take these wings and detach these here away from the jetpack by making sure to extend those double hinge joints. Now the aim of the game is for this tab to slide into that slot and for this tab to slide into that slot. So proceed to pull this here all the way around. First of all, locking the forearm into place, and then second of all, locking that tab there into place. Once completed, again guys, do the same for the second side. Bang! Once that's complete, we can then take a hold of the tank treads and proceed to bring these here down, take these wings and collapse these here along the base. Again, do the same here for the second side. Take the tank treads, swivel these here down, compress the wings into the base. Then what you'll do is spin around here to the side of the tank, where we will now take the main turret itself and shift this forwards until this clicks into place. Then what you'll do is take this entire top panel, which by the way on the underside has been brilliantly detailed, and stored beneath is the main cannon itself. So be sure to extend this here all the way forwards, snap this panel back into place, spin around the entire tank turret, and that is Overcharge now fully transformed into his tank mode. Now, blasting his way onto the battlefield, here is Overcharge, fully transformed into a full-blown tank, which I think easily sweeps the look of the jet mode. This is solid. Now, I do remember when Blitzwing was first released, there weren't many that were that keen on the look of the cockpit from the front, and granted, it definitely does appear to be super strange, although is accurate to how Blitzwing did appear in the original G1 cartoon. And if you weren't the biggest fan of how it looked, then you could spin this bad boy around to the back, where he is now packing 2 additional boosters, so should hopefully have no issues in turbo boosting through that multiversal portal. I also thought that it was really cool to finally see the return of some proper rolling wheels on a tank former. Recently that appears to be completely hit and miss, especially when it came down to the Transformers 1 Megatron. And if you also wanted to repurpose those Energon mitts and transform them into something which this time actually looked decent, they do make for 2 pretty heavy duty Cybertronian missile pods. So this guy should have little to zero issue in annihilating his enemies. And as we fly through some comparisons, on the right hand side we have the Legacy Blitzwing, which when in this mode these guys are simply just direct repaints of each other. Although I'm gonna be honest guys, I really am digging these brand new militant colours that Overcharge is now totally rocking, to the point where despite me overall preferring Sandstorm as a triple changer, I would be lying if I didn't say that Overcharge is causing for some tough competition, especially when it comes down to that land base vehicle mode. Then finally, here is how he stacks up against the comeback king, the Earthrise Optimus Prime. Now let's turn to the final transformation this guy's packing. So for the first step, take a hold of this top canopy and pop this bad boy open. You'll then take the entire tank turret and proceed to fold this backwards and snap this here into place. You'll then want to take the entire turret itself and spin this around until the back is now facing the front. Then what you'll do is flip here to the underside, where we are first of all going to take a hold of these tank treads, pop these here open and pull these here backwards. Again guys, be sure to do the same for the second side. Pop these here open and extend those there backwards. Then what you'll do is make use out of these hinge joints and snap these here down into place. Then for the next step, we are going to detach these here away from the forearms. So pop these here all of the way up, and again do the same here for the second side. Once that's complete, we can now spin up to the top, where we are going to proceed to reset these back into the position that they were in during robot mode. So making use out of these double hinge joints, compress these here down until they do snap there into place. And again guys, be sure to do exactly the same here for that second side. Then what you'll do is proceed to flip this guy here up to the top and then spin him all of the way around, as we are now going to unlock the canopy to reveal the nose cone of the jet mode. So take a hold of this bad boy and whack it all of the way forwards, and then proceed to snap this here back into place. Then for the next step, we are going to take this entire backpack and we are going to proceed to extend this here upwards. So take a hold of that chest unit and also fully detach this, and again shift this into the position that you did originally have it in during the robot mode. Then for the next step, we are going to take these side fins and we are going to proceed to fold these here upwards, again on both sides. We are then going to split directly down the middle, only this time round when we take these panels, we are going to leave these here completely deployed, and again do the same for that second side. Once completed, we can then recombine these here down the middle, and this is where things can definitely become a little challenging, because we are now going to take the shoulders and detach these. We are then going to pull these here all the way back. Now that tiny little T cutout is actually going to slide into a tab which is on the hip. So snap that section there into place, and again guys, be sure to do exactly the same here for the second side. At this point, now we can take the entire backpack and begin to pull this backwards, much like we did originally. Now the only difference being is that this time round it is going to connect into a total of 4 individual tabs and slots. The first set being those tabs sliding into those slots, and the second set being those tabs sliding into those slots. So what you'll do is take this backpack and line everything up appropriately until this does snap there into place. For the next step, you'll then take the chest plate and reconnect this back into the original position that we did lock it in for the tank mode. We'll then take the entire tank turret, set this here backwards, and then for some final touches, you are going to spin this guy here up to the top, where we are now going to take a hold of these panels and flick these bad boys here forwards, and that is Overcharge now fully transformed. Cruising through the battlefield of Cybertron, here is Overcharge, now fully transformed into his jet mode. Now more likely than not, when it comes down to a triple changer, there is always usually a weaker mode, and in the case of Overcharge, I really think it's this jet mode, because despite from a bird's eye view, this guy looking fantastic, unfortunately that illusion is very quickly lost as we turn him here to the side, because he is incredibly chunky, to the point where being compared against the original G1 vintage toy that easily reigns supreme. As we spin him around here to the back, here are where those additional boosters lay. Although by the looks of it, I'm thinking this guy's going to need way more support, which is yet again where you are able to repurpose those Energon mitts, and this time round transform those into 2 pretty ridiculously oversized boosters. To be honest guys, I think Hasbro would have been better off going down the parts forming route. Had these panels here been detachable, then maybe that would have made this guy less of a shelf warmer in comparison to what we have unfortunately seen from Blitzwing, which we now have fully transformed on the right hand side. And I'm gonna be brutally honest, I don't think it matters what colour you repaint this guy into, because you can take a turd, you can add sprinkles to it, but at the end of the day, it's still a fat old and despite maybe Overcharge having the slight upper edge when it came down to the land-based vehicle mode, he is very quickly humbled as we whack out Sandstorm, fully transformed into his air-based vehicle form, because this thing looks fantastic, and to be entirely honest, I would love for Hasbro to do so much more with this mold. Can you guys imagine how amazing it would be, fully redecoed to resemble the appearance of the original 2007 live-action movie Blackout? Not gonna lie guys, as a legacy take on a live-action movie character, that could look straight up sick. Then finally, as I'm sure you guys all expected, let's now wrap up these comparisons by whacking out the absolute GOAT, the Earthrise Optimus Prime. So, wrapping up on this review for the Transformers Legacy United Leader Class Overcharge. Gonna be completely honest guys, what a super lackluster release to round off what has to be one of the greatest trilogies in the history of Transformers. Legacy so far I think has been a banger, so it really does suck that they've given us what should have been a Generation Selects as part of the 5th and final wave. Now when it comes down to this guy's robot mode, I think he looks solid, and the same can even be said for the tank mode, but the Jet is just straight up slacking for that leader class price point, so much so that again guys, much like the Legacy Blitzwing, if you do plan on picking this up, I would most definitely wait for this guy to go on clearance, because without any doubt at all, that is where I think he will end up. I would love to get your guys' thoughts on this Legacy Overcharge down in the comment section below. I want to thank you all so much for watching, and until my next review, transform and roll out!